Hey, it's Wes, and it wasn't raining when I came out to film this video. But anyway, it's an exciting day because we have a new ultra-wide lens to look at, and I love ultra-wide lenses. If you go through my portfolio, about half of my images on my website are taken at 16 millimeters. And so, here we go, even wider. It is the new Viltrox AF 14 millimeter f4.0 lens. This is a part of their new-ish Air lineup of lenses. It probably looks super familiar to you because it looks like all their other Air series lenses. No surprises there, but are there some surprises down the line when we take a closer look at this? Let's find out, starting with the build quality. This is where there are no surprises. We don't have a rubber back gasket. It's not exactly weather sealed. A little bit plasticky, incredibly lightweight. That's a benefit later on in the video though. The lens hood, which is honestly larger than I would expect it to be at 14 millimeters, is very thick, very rigid plastic, much like all the other Air series lenses. Focus wheel doesn't feel amazing, and if you squeeze it real hard, it kind of binds up. Goodness, it is full on raining right now. Good fit and finish, but again, it is a plasticky, cost-saving lens. This is a 7.5 out of 10. Handling and usability. This is an interesting point. Now, I normally deduct points for not having switches or extra, say, an aperture ring or any other dials, autofocus, manual focus, assignable, that sort of thing. But normally when you're shooting ultra wide, you're talking about a big lens. This is less than a third of the size of the Viltrox 16 1.8. And so this suddenly becomes a very simple, very easy to use walkabout lens. That's fantastic. So that is a huge plus for usability. Additionally, one might normally lose points for usability when a lens isn't wide enough in its maximum aperture. But most of the time when you are shooting an ultra-wide lens, you're not using an f1.8, f2.5 aperture. You're stopping down for real estate, for landscape, stuff like that. So again, no big deal in this case. So this is going to open up a lot of realms of use for gimbals and for easy things where you don't have a lot of room or you can't use a lot of weight. So, although I might expect like an 8, 8.5 for this one, because of the ultra small size and ease of use on this, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 for usability. Image quality. We get a little bit of barrel distortion, not a lot, easy to correct. Get a little bit of vignetting all the way through, but again, not a lot, so it's easy to correct. In most of my photos, I really can't find any CA. I'm pretty sure there's just a little bit, but not enough to write home about with this lens. It's not the sharpest lens in the world, I will give it that, but it's almost the exact same sharpness from f4 all the way to f11. Then it softens up a little bit from diffraction, as you might expect, but that's great. Now, flare control. This one's a little bit complicated. If you look really close at this, the aperture, even when wide open at f4, you can see the blades. It's cutting in. So the bokeh, if you ever get bokeh, it's hard to get, but you can get it because you can get super close to your subject, can come out looking a little bit harsh, a little bit polygonal. However, I believe that's intentional so that this lens will offer sun stars from the widest aperture all the way down. This doesn't necessarily help us that much when it comes to image quality, and so we will get those flares pretty quickly, but it does resist washing out and losing contrast pretty well. Honestly, I would prefer that it have worse flare control so that we can really go hard on the whole lens flares and sun stars. As far as image quality goes though, I have to give that an 8.25 out of 10. It's really good, but it's not great. But I mean, that's kind of the story with most of the Air series lenses anyway. Looking to save some money. How much? We'll find out later on. So next up is image character, and this is where my hopes were high, and I, for the most part, was not disappointed. This thing loves to give sun stars, loves to do flares. Again, I would rather have an even bigger cinematic flare, but I'm probably asking for too much in this case, especially since it's such a small lens, only 7 aperture blades, but I managed to get some great flares out of it. Unfortunately, it has been a weird year and we're getting a lot of wildfire smoke around here, and when the sky is really smoggy, it's hard to get those sun stars. You need a really sharp sun for that. And so I didn't get to play around with that as much as I wanted to, but that gives us an 8.5 out of 10 for character. Very good. Focus performance. This is my biggest pain point, a tricky one. Being 14 millimeters focus, not the most important, especially when you can only go to f4. But when you are working with the focus, it is pretty quick, pretty reliable. However, face and eye autofocus was a little bit temperamental for me. And I found that, especially with animals, if animals are your thing, I had some difficulties. However, it was a little bit better behaved with people, so take that as you will. Now, it was able, however, to focus all around the frame, which a lot of third-party lenses struggle with, so it did get consistent performance right across the board. So overall, it is good, but definitely not perfect. It's a 7.75 out of 10 for autofocus. Value. This lens sells for $200 US. That is phenomenal. Most ultra-wide lenses are a lot more. Let's have a look at what we can compare this to. Just going autofocus, there is a Rokinon 14 2.8 for $530. Viltrox, their previous full-frame ultra-wide lens, the 16 1.8, $580, way bigger, made of metal, totally different thing. Laowa has their 12mm 2.80D autofocus for $700, a lot more money. And then, you know, you get the big boys like the Sony 14 1.8 G Master for $1,600 US. You can get a manual focus, 15mm f4 lens, the Nisi Sunstar, $300. There's the Venus Laowa 14 f4 for $450. Those are manual focus lenses for more money than this, and similar aperture specs. So that is an obvious 10 out of 10 for value. And where does that put us? That gives us a total score of 85%, nice round number. Let's have a look at the full spreadsheet to see where that compares, and unsurprisingly, it slots in with a lot of the other Air series lenses. I gave it a little more points for handling and usability than most of them, again because of its surprisingly, shockingly small size for what it is, and just a banger for value, easily the 10 out of 10 for value. Not at the top of my list, but it will probably remain one of my favorite lenses. If you need to travel, throw it in the bag, because sometimes when you're traveling, you go to a cathedral or somewhere majestic, you want to get that ultra-wide focal length. It's hard to get, but 14 millimeters in the bag, weighs almost nothing. This is a fantastic value, and once again, just Viltrox, they know that they found that niche, that perfect balance between value and usability and quality, and they just keep banging them out, and I'm here for it. So, if you have any questions about the new 14mm f4 from Viltrox, let me know down in the comments below. If you want to pick up one of these lenses, there's going to be a link down in the description below to help support this channel and feed my fat cats. Until next time, let's go take some very wide photos. Get out of the rain, goodness.